guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Club Grayskull Filmation Mer-Man from Super 7. So Mer-Man is one of those standard longtime members of Skeletor's Goons. He was released in that initial wave of action figures way back in the 80s, but his appearance in the cartoon was always slightly different than the way he looked in toy form. So getting a Filmation version of Mer-Man as an action figure is pretty exciting stuff. As you can see, he comes in this great Castle Grayskull themed box, just like all of the Club Grayskull figures, the back of which has the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe logo right there. And this right here is a nice slipcover. So we can actually remove the slipcover to reveal a window box within, which has got Mer-Man standing in the jaw bridge of Castle Grayskull there. Very cool stuff. Fully showcasing the action figure and all of his included accessories. Rotating this around to the back side of the packaging, we've got an animated version of Mer-Man here standing in front of Snake Mountain, and we've got a brand new bio for the character on the bottom of the box. So let's go ahead and get Mer-Man pulled out of that package and get a closer look at him. Alright, here we go with Mer-Man. So Mer-Man does have quite a bit of a different look in the original cartoon series than both toys, actually, the vintage toy and the classics toy, because even the classics toy got a different head sculpt that more matched the artwork on the original card back. It's all very confusing. Like, Mer-Man looks very similar in all three forms, but all three looks are actually very different from one another. And this right here is a fantastic sculpt. I think the Horseman did a really great job of just nailing the look of this character as he appeared in the animated series, specifically in the head. Of course, one of the big things is he does have these much more pronounced fins on the side of his head, or are those his ears? I don't know, I never really knew, but you know, these fin-like pieces on the sides of his head are much bigger on this particular version. Plus, he has that very blank stare that Mer-Man is very known for. And you can see the color there is kind of like this off blue, right? It's almost like a between blue-green, but it definitely leans a little bit more blue. But it's just a really great looking figure. I will say also that he doesn't look quite as flat as far as the paint goes. He does have a little bit of a shine to the plastic, and to me, that's preferable. I like that quite a bit. So you can see he does have a lot less detail in the overall sculpt, which is what a lot of these Filmation figures contain, because they're supposed to have much more of an animated look to them. So he is wearing his signature yellowish armor there. It does have kind of like these squares sculpted into it there, but like I said, it's not quite as detailed as what we saw with like the classics version of Mer-Man. The armor itself is made of a softer, pliable plastic. It is not removable from the figure, but it is also worth noting, very interestingly, much like they did with the classics figure, it looks like the Horseman designed kind of this extra neck piece, which appears to be part of the armor. Look at the way that is actually attached. It's noticeable on the back. You can see underneath it's actually unpainted. It's the same yellow color. But surprisingly, the blue is matched up really nicely on the paint here. And from the front, it's hardly noticeable at all. That actually blends in quite seamlessly. In fact, it's only that I'm pointing it out that I think it's a little bit more noticeable, the colors of the blues. Otherwise, that works really well, and it kind of helps to build out his neck a little bit there to give him that look, that bigger look, with the way they built it kind of on the basic body there. So that's really ingenious stuff. I always like seeing the ways that the Horsemen kind of create this stuff and get real creative to make these guys look more the way they appeared in the cartoon series. So going down the body a little bit more there, you will notice he just kind of has like these plain gloves there, a little bit of a paint mess there on the upper portion of the gloves, kind of bleeding onto the arm, but for the most part this guy looks really, really clean. He does kind of have those Skeletor-like clawed feet there, much like the actual Mer-Man action figure from classics and the vintage toys, but overall I do really like the look of this guy. I think he turned out really nice. So let's go ahead and walk through the articulation here. So the head is still on that ball-like joint. It doesn't get hindered by this extra neck piece at all. You can still move it side to side. It still moves up and down with a pretty good range of motion there. You do have nice ball joints at the shoulders, so the arms can go outwards, forwards, and backwards, with swivels at the bicep. tight joints at the elbows and swivels at the wrist, along with the hinge joints at the wrist. It does look like the hands are painted. I've got a little bit of paint peel in there. I don't know if you notice it on the hinge and also where I've already put weapons in his hands. So that's definitely something to watch out for. He does have the torso crunch, which you can see kind of makes his armor bend a little bit, but it's worth noting that it still functions just fine. He does also have a waist twist, which is a bit tight, again, because of the armor piece going around his waist. The thigh joints go outwards, forwards, backwards, swivels at the thighs. They're a little loose, but not overly loose. He does have real tight knees on here, which is very, very nice. He's got tight swivels at the boot cut, and then his ankles have the ability to go up and down, as well as rock side to side. And they're not too bad either. They're a little loose, but they're not like super loose. In fact, I'm not having any issues with standing him up, so that is good. And I definitely appreciate the rock there, allowing you to actually kind of pivot those ankles side to side for some better stances. So all in all, this guy is built quite solid. So he comes with 3 packed in accessories. First up is his classic looking sword, which they call the Sword of Rakash. You can see it is done very similarly to the vintage toy and the classics one. Doesn't quite look like a hunk of corn like those did. Definitely has a bit more of like a undersea kind of look to it there with like a bone handle. It is a solid color plastic. It's unpainted, but you can't pop that in his hands there. He actually holds onto that pretty solidly. So that way you can arm him up with that classic sword that he is known for. But aside from that, he also comes with the Spear of Bakul, which is very cool. So this is done in like a light purple plastic. The little orb on there on the spearhead is painted red. It is a flat purple, and it is worth noting that it's a little tight getting him to grip this in his hands. Here, let me show you real quick. When we kind of place this in his hands there, specifically the portion right here that looks like it should be gripped, and as a result, and because of the flat paint, I don't know if this is really coming across, but I did rub off quite a bit of yellow paint from his gloves onto the spear there. And I credit that to this flat based purple paint that's used on here. It almost doesn't feel like it has like a coating on it, a clear coat at all, and that's what's causing it to like catch on and rub off the paint. So that is definitely something that you want to watch out for. Aside from the spear, he also comes with the freeze ray gun. Again, it's a very simplistic sculpt meant to look like what you would see in the Filmation cartoon series, and that is painted with just kind of a flat gray look. Again, you can see I've actually got a lot of yellow paint rubbing off on this gun as well. The paint rub is definitely a bummer. I hate that. I kind of wish that it wasn't happening. But the accessories themselves are pretty fun. He actually has a nice tight grip on them, so that way you've got 3 different options for arming up Merman. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's the new Filmation version of Merman standing alongside the Masters of the Universe Classics version, which really shows you the difference between them. The details are much, much greater on that Classics version, but this new one does a great job of looking like he did in the cartoon series. So it's a preference thing. Do you prefer him to look like the retro toy with a lot more detail, or do you prefer him to look like he does in the cartoon series? I think it's pretty great that we have the options. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the new Club Grayskull Filmation style Merman from the folks at Super 7. All in all, I really like this one. I think he's a very solid figure. I think he feels a lot better than we've seen with some of the previous Filmation figures. He's a solid figure. He's got a nice clean paint deco, with the only real issues that I'm having is with some paint rub on the weapons, and I think that's because of the way the weapons themselves are painted and the paint that's on the hands there. Aside from that, he's a solid figure with great articulation and a sculpt that I love, and I think it's so great that we're really building out those baddies in the Filmation style. They are looking great when lined up together. So this particular figure, like all of the other new ones from Super 7, was available by pre-order only. So if you missed out on that, you're going to have to find it on the secondary market at this point. So happy hunting, my friends. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, leave me a comment to let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.